Welcome in to a special edition of the Rawlings First Pitch MVC edition, and joined by Joe Healy from D1Baseball.com. And it's our get together prior to the Missouri Valley Conference season starting with every single head coach out of the MVC. And we start at Belmont, and Dave Jarvis, we welcome him in. 11-11 on the season, but it's always good, Dave, to come off a sweep and you turn the trick against Lindenwood. What was the key to that weekend?
Pitching and defense was a big part of it. As the weekend went on, we began to really settle in and play much more consistent defensively. Weekend started out with rash of some injury issues that had popped up both Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and so we were kind of moving people around and plugging holes, and had people do two things: change positions, move from third to short, move from left field to second base, come off the bench, fill holes, things like that, and really began to settle in and play consistent defense. And pitching staff did a really good job. As the weekend went on, that began to get even better then once we settled in. So that was the big key for the weekend, no doubt.
Speaking of the mound coach, Andy Bean leading the way for you guys, how much of a luxury is it to have him back in the rotation, just knowing what he brings to the table for you guys?
Well, the thing that he brings is a lot of poise and a lot of confidence. Our players have a lot of confidence in him when he's on the mound. They like playing behind him. They get excited about that. And so those things, it's immeasurable a lot of times what those type of things bring to your atmosphere and your roster. And he does a really good job with that. And he's good. Pitched in a lot of big moments in a lot of big ballparks, top 25 teams and stuff throughout his career. So that gives us the opportunity to have a guy with a lot of poise on the mound in any of those situations. Helps tremendously.
Then on the position player side of things, had some turnover in the lineup coming off of last season going into this season. On the spectrum of how close that position player group is to finding its identity, where would you say that group is right now?
Well, we're still not there yet. I mean, offensively, we haven't been as consistent as what I think we need to be and are capable of being yet. We have one position player, one bat returning from last year's lineup. We lost eight of our starting position players to graduation last year. It was kind of a double graduation year for us, with COVID, and then a second class actually meeting graduation last year as well too. So it was kind of unique, a perfect storm a little bit. But I'm excited about the people that we have here, the both transfers and incoming freshmen that we've had come in, and then the development of some of the young men that were on our roster playing behind those kids that graduated last year. But it does take time, and we have to have a little bit of patience. And they're very capable. They're a talented group, and you begin to see them mature and come together as you get into that 50, 75 at bats of this season. Things begin to gel and come together.
Coach, you kind of touched on a little bit, but I'm just curious, you're picked to finish sixth in your first season in the Missouri Valley Conference. What's it going to take for Belmont to finish in the top half or even better? A couple of keys for you guys going into the Valley.
Biggest keys for us are going to be one, staying healthy. We're going to have to get healthy now that we've had a few injuries in the first 3-4 weeks of the season. And I think we can. I don't see it as being season-ending injuries that we're coping with right now, but we got to get healthy. And then the other key is going to be, just maintaining from an offensive standpoint what we do, what our identity is, and who we are, as far as being able to try to make sure that we apply pressure to opposing pitching staffs and opposing defenses. And we're beginning to mature in that direction. We're beginning to put that together, but there's still a lot of work to be done, right? I mean, Shane, and we have a lot of work in that area. Progress is what I get excited about. And I can see us still continuing to make a lot of progress in that direction from an offensive standpoint. Defensively, I've always felt like we were capable and have a pretty good crew to put together defensively. And then, of course, our pitching staff is younger now than it was due to some injury and departures, but very, very capable. And so AJ Gore is doing a tremendous job with that pitching staff, and I like the work that our associate head coach, Aaron Smith, is doing an outstanding job in developing these hitters as we get them more at bats and get them more opportunities at the plate.
We'll get that red carpet ready and roll it out for Illinois State this weekend. Best of luck and best of health to you guys, Coach. Appreciate you.
Shane, thank you. I appreciate you guys having me very much.
All right. Up next from Bradley is Elvis Dominguez, longtime head coach for the Braves. And as many times as not, Elvis, the weather has been victorious in a series as much as any other team. You've been to two different Jacksonvilles, and you just come from Ann Arbor of all places to get a doubleheader in. Take us through the first 15 games for the Braves as you see it, Coach.
Well, Shane, like you said, it's Mother Nature's always undefeated. You know this, and it's one of those things we've just been having to play around a lot. Played several doubleheaders, which we weren't planning on, but this time of year when you're a northern team, that's what happens. But the key for us, I mean, we're 6-9 right now, but it's been we played very inconsistent baseball the first 2 or 3 weeks. We just haven't been able to put together the whole package. Yesterday was the first time where I felt confident that we actually played in all aspects, pitching, defense, and timely hitting. So it's just been, trying to find our place right now. We have a couple guys that are not there yet, that are, guys that we've been counting on, but hopefully that'll come around here the more we play. And obviously in order to do that, you have to be able to play more games. And right now we're a little short on that, but those things are bound to happen. It's a long season and we just try to take it one step at a time.
One guy who's off to a good start for you is Ryan Vogel, and that's nothing new given the way he swung the bat for you last year. But what have you seen from him this year that seems to, at least on paper, have allowed him to take another step forward?
Maturity, and I don't mean that from a personal standpoint. I think he understands his role, is really come into his own, and it's really for him, matter of just getting on. He's he homered yesterday in the second game, but that's not him. He's really trying to just do the little things that make him special and make us go. But so far, he's never deviated from his element, and it's off to a great start for us.
On the mound, what do you see as being a couple of keys as you go into MVC play? I mean, certainly getting more games, as you allude to, so you can kind of figure out roles seems like it might be important for you. But talk a little bit about the mound and what you guys are going to have to do to be successful there.
Well, we've had some good pitching in spurts, but it's been, like I said, very inconsistent on that aspect of it. What's really killed us is the fact of staying away from the big innings. We haven't been able to minimize a lot of those things. And when you're playing double headers, you go in with a plan, and the good thing, you can always have a plan, but it never works out. Usually the game dictates a lot of that, and guys are being brought in certain situations that maybe they're not ready for, but we need them. But it's just been, a little bit inconsistent, but, guys like Jacob Kisting, Josh Flack threw really well for us yesterday. One guy we got to get back is Dalton Mall. He's like I said, he's just been so erratic, and but we really feel confident with him. Travis Lutz is another guy that we're counting on, but our bullpen is really, to be honest with you, as much as I hate to say it, it's our strength, but we haven't been able to show consistency in that aspect of it yet. And I'm hoping that comes around here as we start getting more and more games on a more consistent basis.
How quickly do you anticipate, Coach, having a set it and forget it lineup, all health, assuming full health? Will you ever get there? Does that ever enter your mind as a coach? Like, I'm really set at this starting nine?
Well, I mean, there's guys like, Connor O'Brien, Connor Manthe, TJ Manteifel, Jackson Chatterton that have been with us for, 2-3 years. And some of those guys are not there yet for whatever reason. They show spurts, but they haven't been consistent, and they're not off to a very good start. So it's just once we get those guys in, to answer your question, Shane, yes, the other pieces we can fit in, but right now I'm still trying to, move around the lineup to try to give those guys more of an opportunity and give us more of a chance.
You guys are picked to finish 5th. What's it going to take? A couple of keys maybe for the Braves to finish in the upper half, or is it just as simple as, like you said, get your guys that have done it before to getting into that groove?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we got to get production from guys that we're counting on, but we have to be more consistent, and staying away from the big innings. And that's really what's killed us. And, as a former pitcher, it can escalate on you really, really quick, and you have to be able to minimize that. But there's guys on there that we're counting on that have to figure that out from their aspect of it, but we just need to be more consistent as far as the pitching. Defensively, we've been a little bit up and down, but when we get to all three aspects, I think we're going to be okay. I'm not panicking at all.
And you got Murray State rather on deck, and they've been hot. Talk about not only the challenge of playing them this weekend, but the challenge of getting hot yourself, getting a little traction.
Well, I mean, it's just like I said, we're going to go right back to work tomorrow. We got Illinois tomorrow, and then try to get a good practice in on Wednesday, and hopefully that'll catapult us into the weekend. But they're playing well right now, and the fact is that we, how the Valley is. Every weekend is a bloodbath, and we have to be able to just figure out some things before we get to Murray.
Continued good health, and we'll talk to you down the line, Coach. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane. Thanks, Joe.
You bet. All right, coming up next, it's Evansville's West Carroll, and one of the hottest teams in the Missouri Valley at 12-7, coming off a hosting of Purdue out of the Big Ten. And Coach, you lost your first 5 games of the season, but you wouldn't know it with the way you're playing right now.
Yeah, we've had a great schedule to start the season, and opening up at Troy, kind of ran into a buzzsaw down there opening weekend, and had opportunities on Saturday, kind of blew 2 saves in one game. Hadn't really experienced that before. And then on Sunday had a go-ahead run at the plate in the 9th inning. And so that was a really challenging team to go down there and face at their place. Never been down there before. Skylar Mead's doing a great job. And then we roll into a midweek at UK, who's a pretty good opponent, and then getting tripped up in our home opener. So that's our first 5 games of the year. And from there, I knew we had a good club and an older group that was going to rebound. And then that's whenever we kind of caught fire in all 3 facets of the game and playing good baseball.
Chase Hugg, for lack of a better way of putting it, his numbers have been ridiculously good so far this season. That's a technical term. What have you seen from him so far this season that's allowed him to make that kind of jump?
Yeah, and his numbers are jumping off the page in a lot of different categories, and I don't feel like he had a single hit at Troy. So from the Troy weekend, I feel like he hasn't really gotten out, and it's been great to see. He's such a talented hitter, doing special things in the batter's box. The big thing for Chase is that no pun, but he's not chasing. He's not chasing balls out of the zone, and just taking what the game gives him. And, he's got such natural bat speed, and he can drive the ball to all fields. And for him to have patience at the plate, you can see his on-base percentage is 2nd in the country, and it's through the roof from his walk to strikeout ratio. He's just making pitchers come to him. He's been electric so far. He really has. He went on a tear. Where he had I believe 18 straight quality at bats of how we kind of look about approach the plate, and that's really unique and special that I haven't seen a hitter kind of get off to the start that he's gotten to since Kevin Kazmarski did back in 2015 or 15.
Between the performance of your rotation, which has been really solid, your defense, which is a hallmark of your program, playing solid defense, run prevention seems like it's been really kind of a thing for you guys this year. How pleased have you been with that aspect of the game, and how much do those 2 things kind of the pitching and the defense play off of each other in that way?
Absolutely. I think the key to anybody's success, the backbone of any program having success, is that they can pitch it and pick it at a high level. And I feel like when those things are working good together, then you just have your timely hitting. You have your hopefully guys up at the right time, where you get a couple guys hot that can produce some runs for you and have some big innings. And all 3 facets are kind of clicking and complementing one another right now. And that's the reason why I think we've built some momentum and success going into the Valley play.
The last couple of years, Coach, it seems to me like you guys have been more the hunted instead of the hunter. More is expected out of Evansville baseball the last couple of years. Is that something you guys talk about, or you just keep your head down and go about business as usual and don't talk about that sort of thing?
Yeah, we still find our way to feel like we are the underdog. We're still a program fighting for respect in our conference each and every year, fighting for respect throughout the Midwest. And we always take that little guy approach and that overall underdog approach, no matter if we're predicted 2, 3, or 4, if we're predicted 7, 8, or 9. We're going to be a club that's bought into one another, that believes in one another. And our players really feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And that's how our culture is. That's the foundation of who we are as aces. And it's something that we continue to try to provide for our guys. I've never used the whole, we're on top of the mountain kind of thing, because we haven't gotten there. We haven't gotten to where we want to have sustained success that I believe we can have here at UE. So we're always going to have that underdog kind of mentality.
And one series doesn't the season make, but you guys jump in with both feet going to Missouri State to open the Missouri Valley Conference. That's got to be exciting when you lock horns with Keith Gutton, right?
Always one of the most well-respected men in the game of baseball. And obviously I really enjoyed my time getting to know Keith and just learned so much off of him. I actually had Coach Brownlee reach out to me yesterday saying, make sure you tell Keith I said hello. And I missed that guy. He's a staple in the game of baseball and what he's been able to accomplish there. And he's put together one heck of a roster, and they have momentum going in this weekend as well. And he's got some great assistant coaches down there with Petrie and Joey Hawkins. And they've really created some magic that I believe Missouri State's going to be set up for many, many years to come. And so it's going to be a great challenge for us. We're looking forward to it. Always love going to Springfield. It's one of my favorite places to go in the Valley, just the setup that they have there, the field, just the atmosphere, just a great overall experience in the Missouri Valley Conference.
Besides full health, before we let you go, besides full health, what's it going to take for the Aces to win it all in the Valley this year?
Our depth on the mound, it needs to stay healthy and consistent. I feel like we have some great pieces, some great people that are put in roles that can really work. If we continue to get quality starting out of our pitching, it really sets us up for success. And then offensively, I think is going to be the ultimate key. We have some talented hitters that are kind of gotten off to slow starts and aren't, playing where I think they can be playing. And obviously the health of Mark Schallenberger, getting him back, I think is going to really kind of put a lot of people in positions where they're set up for success. So that's kind of the way it looks for us is that if we continue to play solid baseball from all three facets, we can put ourselves in a position to, compete at a high level in this conference.
Well, best of luck this weekend. Continue good health, and we'll talk to you down the line. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thank you.
You bet. All right, coming up next, it's UIC Sean McDermott as the Flames embark on their first trip to Missouri Valley Conference. They'll get SIU coming up this weekend. And Coach, at 7 and 8, like a lot of programs in the North, you're certainly at the mercy of the weather, so not as many games as you'd like to have gotten in, I'm sure. But talk a little bit about that trip to Alabama in the non-conference. A lot of northern schools got to go south to begin the season, and you kind of got a taste of it in an eyeful at Alabama, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, we always want to play a good competitive schedule and playing an SEC opponent in a very good environment and a very experienced team. We're gonna have to play games like that in the Missouri Valley Conference as well. I think we've been bitten by the injury bug a little bit on the mound. We're really short right now, and guys have been stepping up and give us innings, but it's really been a patchwork of pitching here early going for us.
With that in mind, I'm curious who you feel like, as you've had a lot of road games, which is always going to be par for the course for you guys. You've had the cancellations. You've had a lot of moving pieces. Who on your club do you feel like has really kind of taken the bull by the horns and stepped up into those voids maybe, and has maybe changed the way that you maybe looked at how they could contribute this season?
Yeah, I think freshman Brandon Bach, freshman left-hander. I know his numbers don't look great, but it's been kind of he probably kept him in too long, a couple of innings at Alabama, but he pitched 4 shutout innings there, was really good for us. Pitched really well this weekend again. Just a good left-handed arm freshman that's not afraid to throw it over and fill up the strike zone. So really excited about him. And Zach Gould, kind of your stock right-handed guy, but tough as nails, going to throw it over and give us quality innings. And those two guys have done a really good job filling in some voids. And then Cade Lancour, who's stepped into our Friday night role, that's done a really good job for us. Again, his numbers, I don't think are indicative of kind of how he's pitched.
On the offensive side, AJ Hinkle's been a big catalyst for you guys. What has he brought to the lineup in his first year in the program?
Yeah, AJ was actually in our program last year, and in our first game of the season, he slid into second base and tore his ligaments in his thumb. So I think having AJ, he's a very intense guy, plays with a lot of energy. And he's just done a good job of sticking with his plan and being who he is. And it's coming out. He's an explosive player and he can do a lot of things. And he's been a great catalyst for us in the middle of our order.
Coach, you've been on the bench for a long time, and now the program is yours. And it's not exactly as if you've never seen these Valley teams before. In the midweek, you can play these guys all the time. But talk about a little bit about making the jump to the Missouri Valley Conference and maybe the feeling around the program within the players.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. I think we're going to an elite baseball conference. We're the Missouri Valley is a top 7 RPI program in the country right now, and has been one of the best conferences in the country consistently for a number of years. The challenges are exciting. Legendary coaches, great traditions, great history, and I think our guys are excited about the challenges. And I think we're going to need to learn how to grind in the Valley. The Valley is going to grind on you, and so I think that's a great challenge for us moving forward. I think it's a good opportunity to bring baseball to Chicago, the Missouri Valley baseball brand to Chicago, which I think is great. And I'm excited about the opportunity to continue to build this program and get us where we can be competitive in the Missouri Valley.
Picked to finish 8th, and I was just getting ready to ask you that. What do you think a couple of keys for you guys to make sure that you finish in the top half of the league?
Win. No, we've got to throw strikes consistently down and over the width of the plate. That's who we are. We want to be a pitching and defense team. And if we can pitch and throw it over, we'll put ourselves in the best chance to win games. I think offensively, we can do some things, but if you're not throwing it over and you're not playing defense, it makes things really hard.
Well, you jump in with both feet because you got to go SIU right out of the chute, the preseason favorites. So might as well bite it off right away, right?
Well, absolutely. And obviously those guys have done a great job and got that program in the right direction. And what a great challenge for us to go in a really hostile environment down there in Carbondale. And let's see where we're at. Let's go out there and compete. And, we're really not, we don't talk about playing opponents. We talk about playing baseball, and the team that plays the game the best is going to win.
Well, welcome to the Valley and best of luck this weekend, Coach. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Joe.
You bet. All right. Coming up next, we'll talk Illinois State baseball with Steve Holm. And like another couple of teams out of the Valley, Mother Nature won this weekend. The EIU series was canceled. And Steve, talk a little bit about how challenging that is during the middle of a season. You've already played 14 games, and then you have to basically pull the emergency brake because you can't play.
Well, we were trying to play them on Thursday, actually, and then we thought Thursday and maybe a Sunday was going to work. And then Sunday, I stayed pretty cold. I actually got here early this morning, and there's a little snow on the warning track still. So tells you how warm it got yesterday. But ultimately, I think sometimes you look at those things and you can use them to your advantage. And as we were really, really banged up weeks 3 and 4. And some of our guys came back and played in week 4, but they weren't necessarily right, if that makes sense. So it might have been one of those blessings in disguise for us. We came out of the gate swinging the bat really well, won some games, won a couple series, and then all of a sudden we started dropping like flies, and we lost our captain in Chang, and that really kind of took the wind out of the sails for some of the guys ultimately. And we didn't play very well. That was week 3. And then he came back week 4, probably came back maybe a tick early. So this weekend probably helped, him and many other guys, I'm sure.
Daniel Pacella is a guy, as a freshman, certainly, looks the part and has the numbers to match, at least so far. He's brought a level of physicality to the lineup. How good has he been? And then how rare is it to have a freshman come in like that and provide that kind of physicality from day one?
It was at the end of the fall, he had hit 8 homers for us. And our park is a very big park, and it's not conducive to hitting home runs. And last year, Ryan Cermak had one of the better years that, Illinois State hitters have ever had. And he hit 19. and went in the second round. And Cermak would normally hit 4 or 5 in the fall. And at the end of the fall, Dan Pacella's got 8. And we're sitting here like, holy smokes, this guy is an animal. And we have a sidearm submarine lefty that he took him deep 2 days in a row. And at that point, I was like, you know what? Like, freshmen that can take, lefty submarine, those guys give everyone problems, right? And not just, can you roll one up the middle? I mean, he's hitting them off the scoreboard. I'm like, holy smoke. So it was something that, we saw right away, and we were, obviously pretty impressed, and you're kind of, crossing your fingers that it wasn't a fall American, and, the season starts and it's different, but, it took him a game or two, and he was a little, jittery like any other freshman, but we had high expectations for him, and we'd like to get those guys back in the lineup because we'd love for him to be able to hit in that, that 6 hole, kind of where we started him. And, it's a lot on his plate when we had to move him up, but, we had personnel issues, and it is what it is. But I think if we can keep him down where we had him, I think it could be pretty fun for him.
Keep my next question short. Simply put, how good has Derek Salata been for you guys?
Derek Salata was a guy that, if you look back last year, he pulled his oblique at Evansville. I believe it was at Evansville. And at that time, if you look at pitcher of the year numbers and stuff like that, Derek was right on pace, and he was actually kind of getting better at that point. And we didn't think we were going to get him back. He's got some metrics that the computer guys up in the draft rooms really like. And it was just one of those deals that he pulled his oblique, didn't pitch the rest of the year. And, there's pretty hard to take a guy in that situation. So to get him back, we were pumped. And then, there was just a couple adjustments that we wanted to make with him in the fall, and kind of got him back to where he was kind of in between what he was in 2020 when he was out of bullpen, and he was like, I think he had a 0 ERA that year, and then where he was last year. And some of those adjustments showed up in, November, December, and all of a sudden everyone could see it. It was one of those deals that, even just a passerby would walk by his bullpen going, holy cow, that looks pretty good. And this, the January started, we get those 3 weekends, and he was really good the first one. Then he pulled his hammy, and he had to miss the second one. And then we very briefly threw him the third weekend. And then obviously we started him on Friday, but he was on a short leash. So we were kind of in that mode of like, how much can we, get out of him early on and try to get him to full capacity. So I thought he did a fantastic job navigating that, because you obviously don't have that many pitches to use, right? So he did a really good job of that week 1, week 2, and then, obviously he's to full capacity at this point. But so there's been other things behind the scenes that, maybe don't show up in that stat line that you're looking at, but in order to navigate all that, and not knowing that you can't just waste pitches here and there, because, we had him on like a 60 pitch count week 1, which is obviously pretty light.
Yeah.
And Coach, you're picked to finish 7th in the Valley this year with all these newcomers coming into the Missouri Valley Conference teams. I mean, what's going to take for Illinois State? A couple of keys that you see, assuming you're healthy, that Illinois State can finish in the top half of the league. What's going to take?
Well, we were, I think we were picked that way because we lost all of our hitting. And if you look right now, I think we've scored a ton of runs. And, obviously we don't maybe have as many runs as everybody else because we didn't play at all this weekend. But ultimately, the runs being scored was the piece that we were most, concerned about going into the season. And I think we've proven that we can score runs, we can hit balls out of the ballpark. So that part is fine. Our pitching came off to a really slow start. We got some returners that are very, very good that have some ugly numbers here at the beginning of this thing. And we talked to our players about, is it the chicken or the egg? Because we came out, we thought we pitched okay, but we played really bad defensively. And our defense is supposed to be our strength. And there was some really good defenders that just weren't defending. And then as the defense started getting better, then, I think the pitchers started buying into the fact that maybe they aren't that good. They started believing what was happening. So ultimately, I think getting those defenders back on the field obviously helps. They were banged up, and they're getting better, and getting them back. But it'll be a pitching thing. Like, can we get those numbers to come back down to where, we only lost 55 something, big innings for us last year. So if we can get those guys back to where we want, the way that we're scoring runs, we're probably in a pretty good spot.
Coach, best of luck this weekend against Belmont and beyond too, okay?
Thanks, guys.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
All right. Coming up next, it's Indiana State talk now with Mitch Hannas. And this is a Sycamore team that started 2-8, but really has found its footing lately. Drop a doubleheader against Michigan State yesterday, or on Sunday, I should say. But Coach, what has it taken for you guys to really get a strong foothold in winning 6 of your last 8?
I think just poorer team, Shane. I think, out of the gate, we played some pretty good teams. We saw good pitching. We saw good clubs. Frankly, they were better than us at that point of the season. I thought Northeastern club, a lot of people haven't heard about. I thought they were as solid as anybody we've seen so far. What we've kind of struggled with are those days where you can step in the park and the wind's blowing out and a lot of runs are going to be scored. We just haven't been that good offensively to this point. So I think coming back up north where runs are more at a premium and it was a little cooler, played more to our club.
As you move forward, is there something you're maybe looking at offensively that you'd like to see come to fruition that would allow your team to be a little more offensive as the season goes on?
I think just continuing to adapt to the way college baseball is pitched right now. I mean, we saw, even yesterday, we saw relievers come in and throw 19 changeups in a row. We saw guys come in and throw 20 sliders in a row. I mean, college baseball right now, I mean, it's a guy's going to come in with a strength, or even if he's throwing 94, he's going to pitch backwards. And you have to adjust offensively. I think we have too many guys that are giving up pitches early in counts with a mentality of driving a baseball, and those pitches aren't coming. So we got to do a better job in early counts of putting balls in play.
What have you liked so far on the mound for your team?
I like the depth. I mean, if you look at our squad, we've got a ton of guys that have gotten 4 and 5 appearances, which we talked about before the season started. One thing that I feel like I've done a very poor job of is developing a bullpen. And so we were hoping to get more guys out there and have a really good idea of what our pen would look like going into conference play. So I think the depth has been pretty good. We've struggled against left-hand hitting clubs to this point. We've got to do a better job, with that. Michigan State had 7 lefties. Northeastern had a lot of lefties. Miami, when we played them, had a fair number of lefties, and their righties were really, really good. We've just struggled a little bit to get left-hand hitting out, and we've got to do a better job of that moving forward.
What was it about the weekend against Memphis that clicked so well for you? I noticed that you played really good baseball against the Tigers. What were the keys then?
We got good starts, Shane. We got really good starts on the mound. I felt like, they're a team that's built on speed. They like to run. I think we did a really good job keeping them off base. And I thought we did a really good job scoring late against their bullpen. They had a couple really good arms on that backside. And I thought we had a lot of good at-bats in key moments against their bullpen to kind of stretch those games out. Those were close games, into the 8th and 9th, and we were able to score late in about every one of those games. And defensively, we've been really solid. I think that's been the best part of our club. I think I looked this morning, we made 8 errors. And I think of those errors, I think about half of them are from the pitching staff and 2 are in the outfield. So I think from a standpoint of interior defense, we've been very, very solid. And that's probably been the strength of our club.
4 errors by pitchers. Just tell them to let the athletes take care of that, right?
We try to move them out of the way. We try.
So you got a series coming up with Valpo. Your boy plays for Valpo. Will the front door be open and maybe share a meal with the kid, or is it all business?
No, I the way they're playing, we're not sharing anything with them. They played real well here really early, and Brian does a really good job. And I think we've got our hands full. I mean, they've been scoring runs, they've been good offensively, and those are the types of clubs that we have struggled with. So we got to make some adjustments and be ready, because I don't think right now our strength is trying to go out and score 8 to 10 with anybody. So we've definitely got some things to square up. So that free meal is not coming until we see how the weekend goes.
Fair enough. I picked to finish 4th in the Valley this year, Coach, and certainly with all the influx of new teams coming in, it's got to be exciting for you. But on the other hand, what's it going to take for you to finish in the top 3rd or beyond in the league? Maybe a couple of keys for the Sycamores this year.
Well, we've got to get more quality starts. I mean, I think that's the key in this league. I think you've got to get quality starts, and you've got to have a bridge in the backside of that bullpen that holds those leads late. And I think for us, it's no different. We've got to have Jacek and Finlong have really good starts for us, and we're still trying to figure out what that 3 is going to be. I'm really pleased with how Jared Spencer is beginning to emerge on the backside. You know, he was very, very good at Illinois the other day. I think he was up to 96 and it was 40 degrees. So really excited at what he can be on the backside for us. And then offensively, we just got to put more pressure on teams. We've got to get on base, and we've got to use our legs and hit and run and do some things to put pressure on the other teams in the league. I think the league's too good in terms of guys with good arms. If you let them just stand out there and pitch and not putting pressure on them and the threat of the running game and doing some things, then you're probably going to struggle to stay in the top half of the league.
Coach, good catching up. Best of luck to you this weekend and beyond.
Thanks, guys. Take care. We'll see
You
you.
bet. All right, Missouri State is on deck, and Keith Gutton, after the Bears finish up at ECU, a very tough place to play. Missouri State still 8-6. Or 11-6, I should say. I want to ask you, Coach, before we get going to the club, what's it like not having the same dugout for the first time in 30 plus years?
Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, what's it like having Paul Evans as your pitching coach? You haven't been by your side for the first time in 30 plus years. What's that been like?
Well, it's different. Absolutely. Paul did a tremendous job while he was here in his tenure, developing pitchers and helping them learn how to be successful. And, we're fortunate we have a guy, Nick Petrie, that's been in the program for years as a player, was an All-American here, and he's done a terrific job thus far.
Speaking of the mound, Brant Thompson's a guy that, physically not the biggest guy, but he sure pitches big, and his numbers bear that out. What has allowed him to have success the way he has so far this season?
Well, it's a 4-pitch mix, and everything's a strike. He's got a feel. He had a pretty solid fall, but he's really, really come on this spring and been an effective number 1. And I feel like, with he and Hayden Minton, the way Minton's been throwing, gives us a real good 1-2 punch, and trying to get Jake Eddington healthy to start on Sunday. And, he was in a little bit of a traffic accident a week or so ago, and it stiffened up his back, so he was unavailable at East Carolina, but we hope to have him back this Sunday to start in the league.
Spencer Niven's obviously coming off a big year last year. This year, once again, he's been a huge catalyst for you. And now it's a little bit different. He's more of a focal point for opposing pitching staffs because he doesn't have as many veterans around him. But what has allowed him to kind of continue to handle that and perform at such a high level?
I think that's his makeup. I think he's always hit. He was a very prolific hitter in high school in terms of getting hits. He's carried that on here. He's got a very good mindset, and having Nick Rodriguez in front of him has been really productive. Nick's had a good year, and then freshman Tag Gallert behind him. So he's had some help in front and behind, but Spencer's his own man, and he gets his hits.
You got Evansville coming up this weekend, Coach, and 2 of the top teams predicted in the league, you and Aces. Talk about what it's like to hook up with Wes Carroll and his Aces teams.
Well, I think, we scheduled the weekend at East Carolina for a reason, to help prepare us for the league. We saw 3 quality starters on the mound. Evansville came to Springfield last year during the regular season and swept us, and I thought they had a really good club a year ago. They've got obviously good returners, including the pitcher. So it's going to be a good series for us this weekend to get started for sure.
Do you feel like you're in a good place right now as far as your staff and your position players?
Yeah, I think so. Initially we were looking for parts of the bullpen, and we're still looking to some degree, but Trey Ziegenbein, other than a blip on Sunday, has pitched really, really well for the last 3 weeks. Scott Youngbrand, the grad transfer, has been effective. So those 2 pieces, Tyler Scherter's been a kind of a wild card guy for us thus far. He's thrown well in relief, a lot of strikes, and he may piggyback Eddington on Sunday. He started yesterday and has been effective for us. So, Thompson, Minton, Eddington, Scherger, Youngbrand, Ziegenbein have been the guys we've really counted on thus far on the mound.
And you already talked about Nick Petrie and what. And you also have Troy Hawkins on your staff. So talk about the familiarity having a coach is expected from them. Right?
The thing you need most of all as a head coach, you need loyalty, and we have that. Those guys are very loyal to the program. They both played here. Nick was National Player of the Year. Joey was Defensive Player of the Year. Both were able to play professionally. Ironically, both for the Cardinals, both played at Hammonds Field as professionals, and they take great pride in the program. And Joey's done a great job with our offense and recruiting thus far, and Nick was the pitcher.
Coach, thanks for stopping by. Always great catching up with you. Best of luck.
Thank you. Good talking with you guys. Bye.
All right, up next, it's Murray State's Dan Skirka, and a very, very good weekend for Murray in their tune-up for the Valley season. They'll go to Bradley. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But Coach, 10-10 overall, but maybe playing some of your best baseball right now, right?
Yeah, we were on the road the first couple weekends, played a couple tough opponents, and then we got tested, we learned, and we've been playing better and won 3 series in a row at home now. So yeah, like where we're at.
Tell us a little bit about what makes Jacob Pennington so special. He's a guy, anybody who's been paying attention knows what he's done in your program, and this year as well. Tell us a little about him and what's allowed him to just be the guy he is.
Well, number one, he's a competitor. When it's game day, man, he's got just a different mindset that has allowed him to be successful. But this fall, he made a little bit of an adjustment with his slider, and that's what's kind of helped him pitch a little bit deeper into games, get a little bit more strikeouts, get out of some jams. But, the competitive piece can't be overlooked. He's been awesome for us and really sets the tone on Friday for the weekend.
Looking at on the pitching side of things, to what extent has the bullpen been something that's been a big deal for you guys? It seems like you look at the stat sheet and you've got several guys that you're able to turn to to shut things down. How much of that has been a part of your success?
Oh, big time. And to be honest with you, it's a lot of new faces for us, which has been exciting. We had a little bit of a learning curve, but the guys have settled into their roles, gotten comfortable out on the mound, and they've performed outstanding. We got a lot of guys, righties, lefties, that we feel comfortable going to.
You won 5 in a row, 6 out of your last 7. What's the key to keeping that going? I know there's maybe not necessarily such thing as momentum in baseball, but you got at least a feel-good mental side of it right now.
Yeah, they say momentum's, your next day starting pitcher, and that's the biggest thing. So, it starts on the mound, throwing strikes and competing and giving us a chance. But we've taken care of the baseball better. Drew Vogel, our shortstop, has been hurt. He's played the last 4 games, so that's kind of solidified our defense and gave those guys a little bit more confidence. And we've turned some double plays, which are always huge. So, those 2 things, throwing strikes, taking care of the baseball, and then just competing, 1 through 9 in our batting order.
A lot of times coaches won't talk about defense, and not that it's not important, but the timely hitting and hitting with 2 strikes and throwing the ball over the plate. Sometimes defense maybe gets lost, at least at the top of mind for media members and fans and things like that. But is that something that you kind of pound in those guys' heads during practice?
Yes and no. It's always a steady mix of trying to figure out what works for your team. Some years you got better defenders and maybe need to hit more, and other years it's, the vice versa. And we've got an outstanding outfield. Those guys have really gone and got the ball and robbed some doubles and triples. So really happy with that. But yeah, we made some errors that, just makes it harder on our pitchers. And this year the pitchers have overcome some of that early. But now we're definitely taking care of the baseball better. Catchers are throwing some guys out. So really happy where we're at with the defense.
I was a little surprised to see that you guys were picked to finish near the bottom, especially back-to-back 30-win seasons out of the OVC. What's it going to take for Murray in their first year in the Missouri Valley Conference to at least finish in the top half?
Well, I think just what we talked about, last year, we did have 30 wins, but we kind of, lost some series at the end. We had some injuries and didn't perform down the stretch and lost some series. And that put us down at the bottom of the OVC. But, overall, we had a pretty good year last year. But it's the same thing, that doesn't mean anything. And, if we would have won 50 last year or 15, but this year it's just what you talked about. It starts with pitching with Pennington and Vernon and Valero and our bullpen, and then playing good defense. This is a really good league. I've heard the other coaches talk about it also, and we're excited to jump into it this weekend.
And this weekend, speaking of, you get Elvis Dominguez and the Bradley Braves. Certainly no easy task there, because the Braves certainly have a lot of history in the Missouri Valley Conference, historically and recently.
Yeah, I personally, I've never faced Coach. I know he does a tremendous job. We've known each other for years. And like you said, they're going to be tough. So we're preparing like crazy and really excited for it.
So beyond the Bradley series, some of the things maybe that you've heard from your players, that there's a buzz, it being in a new league, getting to play in new cities, things like that. It's not like you're completely a stranger to the Valley. You play in the midweek probably quite a bit over the years, but just being in a new league and the newness of it, is it exciting for you?
Yeah, for sure. You hit the nail on the head again. The guys, that's kind of what they've talked about, playing some teams that we haven't played, going to some places we haven't played. The facilities are outstanding in the league. There's historically really good coaches, really good programs. And we've had, some success against some of the teams, and we're excited to do it now, as a member of the league.
And keep it going. Best of luck coming up this weekend and beyond, and certainly good health to you guys too, because I know that's another thing that you don't talk about. If we can stay healthy, we'll do this and this, and certainly that's a big part of it, isn't it?
No doubt. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
You bet. All right, coming up next, it's the preseason favorite in the Missouri Valley Conference. It's SIU, and they just recently played a series, or tried to play a series, an abbreviated one, against Illinois. The top dog, as it were, in the Missouri Valley Conference, it's the SIU Salukis, led by head coach Lance Rhodes. And so far this season, Coach, it's been a little bit of a bumpy ride. Talk about the first 21 games for you.
Yeah, we just got a ton of new players in our program, a lot of transfers, junior college transfers, and a good mix of Division I transfers too. And I think the toughest thing that we've dealt with right now is we've got a lot of players that are trying to figure out where they fit in, whether it's a starting role, coming off the bench, a backup role. And obviously everybody that we brought into our program at one point was an everyday player. So I think it's taken us a little bit longer to kind of settle in on roles than I expected it to. And I think that's just been some of the inconsistencies of it as well. But the other thing is we've had a challenging schedule at the beginning, and the record doesn't look good. But if you dive into the record, there's been a lot of competitive games. We haven't found a way to win those games enough. But I do think, us sitting here as a staff, we have a lot of hope and expectations going into conference play that we are going to, have a very successful conference season. It just hasn't looked pretty at the beginning, but I think there's a lot of good things that can still happen.
A little bit of a two-part question here about this past weekend. One is how did your team handle the kind of the uncertainty and the strangeness of moving a series down to Mississippi to get those games in? Then secondarily, is there maybe a silver lining in that, maybe there's a little bit of a lesson there in dealing with adversity and rolling with the punches that might actually end up paying off towards the end of the season?
Yeah, I think for us, we were going to be on the road anyway. We were going to go to Illinois, so we just went south instead of going north. So it wasn't a whole lot of change on our end of it. When you talk about the adversity, I honestly feel like we've dealt with it all season. I mean, no excuses by any means, but we played some tough opponents. We've been in some challenging games. I mean, some back and forth games. And, I think where our group is hopefully learning and maturing is how do we get over the hump? And when we're in the middle to latter part of a game, a challenging game, how do we win those games? And, we've been very fortunate over the last couple of years here to where we had, a core group of leadership that really just took our players and we found a way to win. And, I think that's some things that are happening. It's just happening at a slower pace than it's happened in the previous couple years. And, so again, I like the fact that our schedule has prepared us to go into conference play and be ready. So we're not going to be intimidated. We're not going to be scared. We've just got to go out and play, and really our best players on our team have to go out and perform at a little bit better pace than what we've done at the beginning part of the year.
One of those better players, of course, Kaber Rog, and he hasn't quite gotten it going yet. I mean, how close is he, and have you seen signs of maybe him coming around to a greater degree?
Yeah, I think yesterday hopefully was kind of a get him going game. He got a big triple for us there at the I think 6th or 7th inning, and put us ahead. He actually got the last 2 RBIs for us in the game. He got it, he got the 3rd run and the 4th run there. So again, it's just one of those things where a lot of the pressure is self-inflicted pressure that he's put on himself. And it was a thing last year where nobody knew who Kaber was last year. He came on the scene, and he obviously had a great season from start to finish. And this year is different because everybody knows who he is. Everybody's pitching him extremely tough. Nobody's giving him a lot of pitches to hit. He's gone outside of the strike zone more this year than he ever did before because nobody's giving him anything to hit. So again, he's got to get back to taking what the game gives him and just trust his instincts as a hitter and just know that a walk is just as good as a hit. And if he swings at good pitches inside the strike zone, he's going to do a lot of damage.
Expectations with your club the last couple of years, Coach, has been to be in the elite part of the Missouri Valley Conference. You guys have that target on your back, and I know that's the way you want it. Is it just a matter of maybe pressing a little bit so far this year? Or like you said, you've been playing some good clubs, and sometimes that's going to happen. Which one is it so far for the first 21 games? And what do you see moving forward? You just need to have the guys that are in place play a little bit better?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, one, when you play good teams, you're going to take a chance of losing more often. And 2, when you do lose a few games, there is that little bit of whether it's doubt that sometimes creeps in people's heads, or the fact that we're facing really good arms and people are struggling a little bit more, and then you start to get yourself in a little bit of a slump offensively or on the mound or whatever it is. I think a lot of that has to do with just the competition that you're playing and learning how to deal with failure a little bit more than we have in the past. And our team we've got a bunch of older guys on our team, so I do believe that they are going to figure it out, and I do believe that they're going to come together towards the middle end of this season. And right now it hasn't been a very rewarding season on the wins and losses column right now, but I do believe that it's going to pay off in the long run as far as preparing our guys to handle tough situations whenever we get in conference play and we're trying to win a series or sweep a series, or and I really believe that this group, we have as much talent as we've had over the last couple of years within this group. The biggest key is the good teams, the great teams, they end up finding ways to win close games, and the ones that end up having just average years, that they don't figure that out. And that's where we've got to get to. We've got to figure out just kind of that it factor that nobody has the measurable for, and just finding ways to win the game. And I'm excited for this group to get into conference play and kind of see where we stand. And we have a lot of confidence on our side of it.
UIC coming in this weekend. Best of luck, Coach. Good catching up with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. And finally, Valpo's Brian Schmack will round out this year's get together at the MVC Rawlings first pitch. And unfortunately, the trip to Omaha didn't happen to take on Omaha in Nebraska, but Coach 7-6 so far. Mother Nature winning out more times than not. But how do you feel about the first 13 games of the season? Because I know you played in some really hostile environments down there in Mississippi.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's obviously to win more than you're losing, you know, and that's something we really haven't experienced, especially this early in the year. So I think the thing that we've looked at is that every Sunday we've had an opportunity to, you know, win the series or sweep the series in some cases. So, you know, to be playing on Sundays and have it mean something has been a good feeling for us.
Yeah, how much do wins? I mean, you've got to win against Kansas, the Big 12 club, obviously Sun Belt club with Southern Miss. How much does that provide a little bit of a proof of concept for your team that hey, this is the level we're at, and when we get into MVC play, we're not really going to see anything that we haven't seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. And I think, you know, the Southern Miss club that we played, I mean, the arms were incredible and they seem to get better every day, despite having an All-American on Friday, you know. So we internally told our guys, hey, listen, we don't think we're going to see a better collection of arms. Now, obviously, we know what the Valley has. And, you know, I think that's why we're saying that internally. But to face that and to do fairly well is encouraging. And like you said, it's kind of proof and reassurance that what we're saying to our guys that, hey, you're better than you think and that we've done is actually true. So, you know, we're taking a lot of positives from that and hopefully we're springboarding ourselves as we get into the league.
And then on the mound, how much of a steadying force has Connor Lockwood been in the rotation for you guys?
It's been great, you know, to see his maturation process, you know, from you know, essentially throwing batting practice for the first half of his freshman year to where he's at now and giving us the most depth and the opportunity to win games has been great. And, you know, he went and played summer baseball and gained a lot of confidence. And that's why I want those guys to go out there because he needs to understand how good he can be. And he's been a strike thrower all throughout high school and even here. So to see him starting to win some games is good. I'm happy for him.
I asked this of Illinois State's head coach, Steve Holm, and that you get a weekend series completely wiped out due to weather. I guess you can take it two ways. If you want to continue the momentum, and baseball is an everyday sport and that sort of thing, it's a downer there. But if you're banged up a little bit, you have a chance to maybe regroup a little bit. Or if you hadn't been playing well in a particular area, you get a chance to shore that up. Which was more true for you guys this past weekend?
Well, we didn't have an opportunity to shore things up because we were inside. You know, it was a little cage game, so those are miserable in itself, especially after you've played outside. You know, we took it easy on the starters. We didn't extend them. You know, we kind of gave them that, hey, let's stay sharp, but let's get a little bit of rest. So it is what it is. We've had it before. The 1 week off isn't bad. You can make do. And we've had years where we've had 2 off, and that's awful. But you know, we just tried to get some work in while still staying crisp.
So moving forward, you got Indiana State coming up this weekend. The Missouri Valley Conference is upon us. Talk a little bit about, you guys know what it's like to be the newcomer in the league, and you got three teams that are joining the Missouri Valley Conference. So tell us what that's like when you step into a new conference for the first time.
Well, yeah, you don't know anybody, you know, so obviously you play Indiana State and all these teams now that we've had the, you know, opportunity to play 4 or 5 times, and you kind of understand how they play and what their guys are like and how much it does change. So for those guys, they're going to be learning because they are new opponents sometimes. So, you know, it's exciting. I heard Dan talk about the new places and the new cities and, you know, the new opportunities for friendships with the coaches, and that's all fun. But at the end of the day, it is a dogfight and every weekend's really, really tough.
Well, best of luck health-wise and going against Indiana State this weekend and beyond. Appreciate catching up with you.
Yep, appreciate it.
All right. There it is. The MVC first pitch presented by Rawlings, our car wash of coaches. We go 1 through 10. And Joe, just want to say it was good to catch up with you once again. Great to talk to you and talk baseball once again. And D1baseball.com certainly got a winner in getting you. Good catching up, man.
And you as well, Shane. I appreciate it. Always fun to talk some MVC baseball with you. Excited for the conference slate. It's going to be great.
No doubt. And thanks also to Ryan Davis for all this and to all the coaches in Missouri Valley Conference. Best of luck and good health this weekend and moving forward. It's been the MVC Rawlings first pitch.